This podcast is brought to you in partnership with EVA International Media Limited. Hello and welcome to Down to Earth with Terry Virch, where we talk about what matters down here on planet Earth. And I'm super excited to talk filmmaking and nature today with Regina Crosby. Regina is a filmmaker turned conservationist, and she's based between California and Oslo, Norway. She's also the founder of the One Whale organization. So Regina, thanks for joining the podcast.
Thank you, Terry. It's very nice to be invited. And I have to let you know, you're the second spaceman I've had the pleasure of meeting. It's pretty unbelievable that I've had the pleasure to meet you. But the other one is Buzz Aldrin.
That's amazing.
I know.
I talked to Buzz just the other week. Checked in with him.
He probably won't remember me, but I was producing a show, which at the time I also hosted, which was about doing adventurous things with cars and things like that. And we did some racing together in Long Beach. We were training to race cars together, and we ate our lunch together. There was a lot of celebrities involved, and I was, fangirling out over the astronauts. So that
is so funny. I want to be on that show. You have to get me on the show.
The show is no longer, but hey, let's start it up again. I think I think it was a pretty cool concept. So, but let's save some whales, change the planet, and we'll do that.
So is that like your day job is film, TV, movies, that kind of thing?
My 100% full-time job now is strictly fighting the good fight for whales. And before that, I have been involved in writing and producing for television and film, and director as well. Right. So this is definitely, that's my career and my passion, but it's taken an interesting turn now, because now it has extraordinary meaning that I didn't set out. I didn't set out for this goal. I didn't think, I want to have more meaning to my subject matter. I felt I was already bringing quite a bit of meaning to what I was doing, but this is different because it's turned into conservation is one word for it, but it's just a better understanding of what we need to do individually as humans every single day, all of us, in my opinion, to not lose everything.
Yeah. Well, I have an interesting perspective on that, in that, climate change is something. I work in the energy industry now. I'm doing different energy transition things, and climate change, I think, is important, and we need to fix it. It's not going to be around forever. It's maybe a few centuries. We're not making more dinosaurs, so we're not going to be burning fossil fuel forever, but extinction's forever. And climate change can contribute to extinction. But when you see things like what's happening in the Amazon, and that's forever. Like that, you can't fix that. You could fix climate change, but you can't fix extinction. So there are some serious environmental problems. But before we jump into this, the way you and I got introduced, I just want to give a shout out to Red Camera. Red Camera is the kind of the glue, our mutual friend Nada Albright, and I have a cool story with Red. But you've been filming using the Red, and for people who don't know, like most people know Nikon and Canon, but in Hollywood it's kind of Red, it's Arri, it's Canon. What are the other? Ari's the big one.
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Red, Sony's jumping in there now. Yeah. Sony has the Venice. So Red makes these big Hollywood cameras, and they've been really supporting you in your work.
Yes. It was one of those days where I'd had the most treacherous day up in northern Norway in a horrible storm, kind of out there by myself, feeling like this is impossible and really hard and very little support, and just out there in the trenches. And I got this call from an email that seemed super suspect. I almost erased it, that said, "Hi, we heard about your project and we'd like to make a large donation to your efforts. We'd like, let us know your address. Where can we mail the check?" And I'm like,
right.
Okay.
Just send us your bank account information and we'll put If you
So
send me $4,000, I'll give you a $5,000 gift card.
yeah, yeah, it read very similar to the way I just read it. And so
Right.
I said, don't you want to hear more about what we're doing before you make a donation? Because I didn't really think it was true, but I thought,
Right.
oh, just, you know, I give everything the benefit of
Right.
the doubt. And so I had this meeting up in the top upstairs of this cabin where I could get some Wi-Fi. And here's this lovely couple that comes on here in California, just the kindest people. And they're like, we just learned about what you're doing. And it turns out that one of them was one of the executives with Red cameras. And so not only were they real, and they did make a nice donation that's kept our volunteer team out in those trenches I was talking about. It kept us out there for a couple extra months, but also he ended the conversation with, I'm going to refer you to our organization and make sure they get you whatever you need to make your film, document this story, and you know, someone will be in contact with you. Again, as a longtime woman director in Hollywood, I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, this is gonna be great. Here it comes. And it just very few, you know, instances actually panned out or there was follow through. Sure enough, the next day I got an email from a wonderful guy at Red, Brian Henderson, which included Nada. And they just said, what can we do for you? And we want you to be using the best cameras. And we are trying to support not only women filmmakers, but people who are making impact. And he said, well, you know, what can we do? So here we are. And they have been wonderful cheerleaders. And I feel it's not about the camera for them. It's about, it's a great way to promote their cameras, but in the end, they are choosing a lane that I don't see anyone else choosing. And they've created a brand loyalty for me that I'll forever have. And this is, mind you, after I already shot a feature film on the very first Red camera that turned out to be a total nightmare. And I swear I'd never use it again because I couldn't get the sound to sync with the new camera technology.
Yeah,
So
their first camera had some issues.
Right. But so
their new ones don't. Their new ones are,
none of that exists anymore. But they turned around someone who would never use it again to, I will never use anything else. So it's really lovely, and I love the company.
Well, as a man director in Hollywood, I can tell you I've heard plenty of no's, or I've also heard, yeah, that sounds great, and then things never happen. So I don't know that it's limited to one gender, that Hollywood is a fickle place.
True.
But it's
we'll have really another call about the statistics for whole other podcast.
Well, I had a Red experience when I was in space. I had a chance to film with the Red Dragon. We filmed the first ever ultra high def from the ISS, which was really super cool. And Jared's getting all kind of free press here, by the way. And then when I got back, I was shooting this TV pilot in Patagonia, and our camera, Red Monstro.
Oh, hey.
we were just, before we started the podcast, I could not remember that. And it died, and 24 hours later there was a guy from California with a new camera to replace it. It was amazing. We had a Gemini and a Monstro. So
he showed up in Patagonia.
Yes, like flew across the world, literally to the other side of the world, to replace this camera that had died while we were filming. It was amazing. It was so I'm a huge fan. And then I had a chance to direct a documentary called One More Orbit. We were flying around the planet, and another brand had told us that they were going to supply all the cameras. They were super excited, and then they just started ghosting me a couple weeks before. So I feel your pain, literally. And so I had different DPs in different locations, and they were all scrambling to get cameras at the last minute. And so we ended up using, I think, 12 different types of cameras on that documentary, which is a nightmare in post to get your color balance right. So but the shots we did, one of the guys had a Red, and they're beautiful. I love them. So Red is awesome. Thank you. You're welcome, Jared. You can buy me in and out the next time in LA. But the project that you're doing is super cool too. And I've heard of Hvaldimir. You want to talk about, is that where you want to start?
I would love to start there. As you can see,
is that him?
That's us.
Yeah, that's you and him. Yeah.
He's something else. It's funny. This interest in the whale happened before meeting him in person. And it was a strange circumstances. The timing was unbelievably odd. I had started dating someone in Norway. Sounds familiar. And I had started dating someone in Norway and was over there spending a lot of time and really out of place, honestly. And I was kind of going through what was a bad transition and felt like, what do I do? What do I do next? Yes. So I basically found myself in Norway. In a dating relationship, and also going through it like a difficult transition in life, and not really knowing what, I'm supposed to do with myself as for my film career or anything. And at basically the exact same time, the news story came out that this whale turned up in Norway wearing a harness and suspected to be a spy whale. And
yes,
a lot
I've heard all about it.
Yeah, and a lot of really salacious kind of haha jokey stories made every late night talk show in the US, and it was an international story.
Why do they think it was a spy? Did it have like cameras on it or something?
He was wearing a GoPro fitted harness. So the harness was fitted for GoPro cameras or cameras of some type, and not too many sea creatures are wearing gear unless it's been put there by a human. And that type of gear didn't really signal that, he was just doing something for, there's been a lot of theories that he's a therapy whale, which would make sense if that were the case, and whoever was using him as a therapy whale would have gladly said, hey, we lost our therapy whale.
Lost our whale, yeah.
Yeah, right? They would have done that.
And this is in northern Norway?
Northern Norway, really close to Russia, but more importantly, in the area where NATO things go on, NATO stuff.
I watched The Hunt for Red October this week. I was bored one night. I always try and watch a movie before I go to bed, which is about the Kola Peninsula, is that part of the world. The Russian fleet is there near Murmansk. And there is a huge interest in that part of the world. And it's possible to train marine mammals to do things. And there's no doubt what that was.
And quite honestly, the Russians brag about their Beluga program and their other animals too, seals, dolphins, and belugas. They're pretty proud of their program. The US has a program as well. So this isn't new in that world, but wow, it was new for me. First of all, I was like, what? This is insane. Like, who's using a whale as a spy? First of all, that's terrible. And second of all, that's dumb. Like, come on, like there's got to be better ways. And then when I found out the US had similar programs, it just, it made me sad for the animals, honestly. I was like, oh, it seems kind of, but beyond that, I just was really curious to know more about the whale. Is that dinging coming through?
I heard a little ding. That's okay.
So beyond the front facing news stories about him, I was really curious to know just more about the whale. I wanted to know what is going on here. Why would he be in Norway, and what's happening? And I couldn't find any information online. I was getting nowhere, and I was really frustrated. And then he turned up again in the media that he returned the cell phone. I don't know if you remember that video or saw that video, but some young girls are in Norway filming him. One of them drops their cell phone in the sea, and the video, another girl videos Hvaldimir bringing the phone back and handing it to her. That was it for me. I was screaming. I'm like, what is happening? And I thought, what I think a lot of people thought is, once the harness was off the whale, I thought that whale would take off and go be a free whale. And he was gone. So when I saw these videos that he's hanging around with people returning phones, I asked my boyfriend at the time, I said, can we go see this whale up in Hammerfest? And we're down in Oslo. I had no really knowledge of like, can we take a weekend road trip? It's like flying the opposite ends of the US. So he's like, no, we can't take a road trip. So eventually I just couldn't stand it anymore. And I booked a flight and was going to go check out what was going on. And I was like, well, Regina, you're annoyed that there's no information. You are a filmmaker. You happen to be in Norway. I was waiting for someone else to put out some information. I'm like, why is nobody putting something out? I want to know more. So I just was like, I'll just take a camera.
Grab your camera.
Yeah. I thought, you know what? I want to give him a dignified story. I understood he was living in Hammerfest, and that Hammerfest was making every arrangement to try and keep him safe and care for him. It's a really nice community he was in. And I thought this is going to be his forever home, but there's so much unknown about him. So I'm going to take a camera. I'm going to film for a week, film the locals, film the whale, and I'll just make a little 20-minute quick thing and I'll put it on YouTube so that there's just a little more information about him that's more dignified than just the butt of a joke. Well, I came back, walked in the door and burst into tears because I was like, this is terrible. Like it was just a terrible situation. And it took me a long time to kind of dive in and be in the position I'm in now. But for a good year, I was waiting for someone to do something. I mean,
Wow.
Yeah.
What year was, so this was a couple years ago? I remember hearing about it.
2019. This is 2019. And yeah, I was behind the camera the whole time. And I was also looking and seeking out other activist organizations and individuals who I thought would, come and do the work and help him and fix the situation, because it was a bad situation. And the end of the end result was that I was told by an activist who I really respect, Rick O'Barry. He said, you're going to have to do it. And I'm over here in Bali with these dolphins. I have other projects. It's like, this is your job. You have to do it. I was just like, me? What? I just want to film it.
Right.
So, but it's turned out to be a good thing. And I've started a nonprofit around him. And that's an effort to just keep awareness on him, because one of the things that I was constantly saying is it's an environment that is different than we all know as Americans or Canadians or wherever we are in the world. We don't really get it, truly get how it is in Norway, but now we do. And we all saw it happen with Freya. Freya traveled up all these other countries, and when she'd show up, they put
Freya the walrus.
Freya the walrus.
For those who don't know, yeah. And this just happened this just happened this summer.
It happened
2022.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
For me, 3 weeks ago, summer 2022. And it validated what I had been trying to say about the imminent threat to Hvaldimir, but it also it was a loud and clear message that we don't have time to waste.
Well, people may not, let's promote your movie. I watched your YouTube. I forgot what it was called. It was Hvaldimir.
It's a PSA. Yeah, that's a little PSA. Yeah.
It's a short little 5-minute, but it was cool to see the whale, but also like there's boats and people and that kind of thing. Yeah. But that was filmed in summer, I think, of 2020. And it's only gotten worse, because during that summer and the following summer, Norway was closed to tourism. Right.
And he was less famous. People were less, they were more cautious about him and more cautious to get in the water. But now he's been all over media and Instagram. So everyone wants more. It's not just enough to take a picture of him. You have to have like this experience where you get in the water, or you play tug of war, or you throw something and he catches it. So they want to recreate what they've seen. And it's, of course, harmful to the whale. And it's, as the more public issues we have, the more close we come to the same situation that we had with Freya the walrus, where he'll just get killed for just
so many people. And then the one guy in your movie said, "Oh, he was biting me," and I'm like, that's probably not his. He's a whale. He eats things. I mean, that's what he does.
And even that is one of the reasons why we spend all this time telling people not to swim with him, and not because he's ever shown any aggression and he doesn't bite, but this is his only hand. His mouth is his hand.
He doesn't have
right. So when he's doing that, he's playing, and I've seen him do multiple times. If someone is in the water choosing to play with him, super fun, right? Well, they go to get out of the water, and just like your dog doesn't want to quit playing or playing ball, he will grab onto the butt cheeks and be like, no,
bring you back in
water, or pull the feet down. And I've had him do it to me as well. He's very
Right.
gentle and stuff, but it can be terrifying because he's a huge whale and people don't get it. So therefore, it's just better not to go in the water with him.
It's so interesting though that, I mean, this is I assume a wild animal who just found a home. And Hammerfest, for those who don't have the atlas memorized, is in the really far north part of Norway, right? It's
Yep.
in the Arctic, at 70 degrees north or something like that. It's really far north.
Their tagline is the northernmost city in the world and the gateway to the Arctic. Yeah.
So yeah, this is not Paris or Frankfurt or something like that. Yeah.
But he has moved. He's swam half the distance of the country towards Oslo, and so now he's in highly, heavily trafficked waters.
Trondheim, or
yes,
he's in
really
Trondheim.
close to Trondheim. I obviously wouldn't reveal his location, but that's
yeah. Because then people are going to want to go see him. And he's a spy. He needs to stay undercover.
Yeah. And it's not only the tourism, but he's in waters where it's some of the most heavy commercial fishing.
Yeah.
All the fjords are populated with,
Right.
not all, but a lot of the fjords are populated with industrial salmon farms. There's
Mhm.
a lot of industry that takes place in Norway.
The North Sea, oil and gas. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So our organization, One Whale, after creating One Whale, I created a team called Team Hvaldimir. That was after seeing the mayhem that was happening. And
Right.
they are there to kind of impose some public safety around the whale, and then also mostly liaise with the salmon farms, because you asked it a little bit ago, is he a wild whale? And the answer to that is really no. He's not. He's a domesticated animal who is trained to be a working animal.
Right.
He was trained from being a tiny baby, and so he really doesn't know how to behave like a wild whale. And so he spends all of his time replicating his environment that he probably had in the military. He holds himself, he holds himself captive, and he works at salmon farms. And quite frankly, they don't want a giant beluga whale in their space and around their salmon rings and with their boats, and nor should they. It's a safety issue. It's a safety risk. So it's not a sustainable program for him. It's not. He needs to have so this isn't my evaluation. I don't know anything about beluga whales, or didn't prior to
you know stuff. Yeah.
Now I do. I'm a one whale expert on this one whale, so that's good. But he needs to have a buffer between, he's so habituated towards humans. He needs a buffer so that he's not in the salmon farms. Tourists can't have a free for all with him. I mean, there's 300 tourists a day in high season. There needs to be some kind of buffer. And then ideally, there's a lot of experts that believe he can return to his wild habits. And I believe that as well. And I think with that time, if he's given that time, then the goal would be to take him back out into the ocean, out of the fjords, and let him be released into the wild. So that's the long-term goal.
Take him out to the proper ocean.
Yeah.
But then I guess you have to make sure he can hunt, and would he get into a pod of whales? Like, you wouldn't want to just put him out by himself, right? Or maybe so.
This is a good question. I really like this. Okay, first of all, I've heard a lot of people who are from the captivity industry for many years say you can never put a whale back out in the ocean, because once they've learned to take food out of hand, they're always going to want.
Right.
He's already proven that to not be true. It took him about 3 months, and much to surprise, there were captivity industry people who came to help him, which is lovely, when he first arrived, because he was hungry, and they were feeding him and keeping him alive, which I really appreciate that. But the philosophies of the captivity industry are what they are, and much to their surprise, and sent them into a panic. Actually, he swam away, and they thought, well, he's out there starving. Like, we got to get him back into Hammerfest. He wasn't starving.
Yeah,
he was feeding himself.
I haven't been starving either.
So he kind of was able to remember whatever, or learn whatever. I don't know how, but it's instinctive. But he taught himself to hunt and eat, and now he won't take any fish out of hand.
Oh wow, that's good. That's actually really good.
But the question about him needing to go back out alone, is a smart question, because I've been researching this, and typically the most success comes when they're taken back out in pairs, have a little teammate.
Right.
And so out of completely selfish reasons, this is a great segue into the Norwegian Whale Reserve. So
wow.
I looked all around the globe for a whale reserve. There's reserves for big cats and rhinoceroses and all kinds of animals. So I figured there's a reserve for whales. I just assumed, or a sanctuary or something. And I looked around and spent a lot of time reaching out, and there really was nothing for him at all. There was one place called the Beluga Sanctuary in Iceland, which was a very different situation, in that those animals were mostly kept in a pool during the season and then let out in the ocean for periods of time. And so that was a backward move for him. And then nothing else was really available other than like some warm water dolphin places. So I started pitching to Norway that they create the world's first whale reserve. Got laughed out of just about every conversation until I met somebody really forward thinking in the city of Hammerfest, who figured, why not? We need to turn around Norway's not so good reputation with whaling.
Yeah.
Change attitude.
It used to be a thing. I mean,
it is. They still whale.
They still whale.
They're the number one killers of whales. Faroe Islands gets all the attention, but Norway's over there killing them right and left. And how they escaped Seaspiracy, I have no idea. I mean, they really
I did not know that. What do they use the whales for?
So when I started asking this question, everyone's like, this is what, people eat, and this is our culture, and this is why we have
Sami, the Norwegian natives are called Sami, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The truth is, this is not about the food. And in fact, a study recently showed that of 500 tons of whale meat that was culled last year, only 150, if my numbers might be a little fuzzy, but about 150 was actually sold, and only 1 to 2% of Norwegians eat whale meat. They don't. Some Norwegians don't even know that they're still whaling, just like you didn't know. It's
I didn't know that.
Dirty little secret in a way. But the rest of that whale meat was thrown away or given to dogs.
That's crazy. Why are they whaling then? Like, what? There's got to be an economic value.
Pest control. So whales eat the fish that you and I want to eat. So
it's like getting rid of wolves in Colorado.
Worse than that, it's like,
or coyotes or whatever.
It's basically they're eating their food, but they want to sell their food. Right. So they want to kill the whales, so they stop eating the fish that humans want to eat.
Well, and in the American West, wolves eat cattle, and the ranchers don't want. So they get rid of the wolves to protect it. It's interesting. I was just on a podcast of a friend of mine. We were talking energy, and we were talking about kerosene and pyrolysis, and you can take coal and do a pyrolytic process and make kerosene and make liquid fuel. You can make diesel out of coal. And he said that when they figured out how to do that 100 years ago, that ended the whale. It didn't end, but it largely ended the whaling industry, because they used to use whale blubber for fuel, like for little candles. And once we figured out how to make that fuel, they largely stopped whaling. So anyway, twice in the same day, I'm talking about this subject. So
I think it's really interesting. I saw a meme one time where, there was some of our political masterminds saying like, oh, this will, wind and solar will be the end of the coal industry. And they're like, yeah, well, this was the end of the whale oil industry.
Yeah.
We should be celebrating that,
It's not. America had, I'm going to transition to energy, because this is my thing. America peaked emissions in 2005. We've been reducing. Europe is really reducing emissions. China and India are just growing exponentially. The increase in coal that China's burning next year, or I'm sorry, in the last year, wiped out the last 10 years of reduction that we've had. So the energy,
whales clean environment.
And so you in your movie, you made an interesting point about the Chinese captivity industry, I guess, in your words.
Yes. Well, I think that all of it points to one thing. Whales are better off in the ocean for humans, more valuable to us than on a dinner plate, for sure.
Right. It's a ecosystem, right?
Absolutely. And
a healthy ocean is good for us.
Yes. And I'll let you get the facts and all the little blurbs about it, because I don't want to repeat it in a way that isn't accurate. But you know, driving Teslas and recycling and all those things are not near as effective as the way that whales clean the environment. And I learned this because I've had to answer, and I'm with other people who know much more than I do, where they're like, well, what's the difference between a cow and a whale? It's all the same, right? It's absolutely not. And whales are a vital part of keeping the environment clean. They actually pull, you know, pollution out of the air and recycle it.
Wow.
And
That's
one
amazing.
of them, they're little, they're
The way they breathe, like
Yes.
their body filters it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Wow.
there's a recent article that said to do the work, you know, because we have to pay to fix the environment. To
Yeah.
do the work of one whale is like millions of dollars of work. So there are these machines
Huh.
that are brilliant recyclers of our mess.
That's so interesting. We had on the space station, there was an emergency. Ammonia leak was the worst kind of emergency. And the only real way to clean it, we had these masks with these big like World War I chemical warfare cartridges. And if you just sat in a room full of ammonia and breathed, that would clean the air. The only way to get rid of the ammonia was through breathing through these things. So the whales must be doing a similar thing. And
Brilliant.
back to energy, I've done the first guest on my podcast runs an organization called the Carbon Underground. He's based there in Southern California, and their mission is to change land use to bring down carbon naturally. He's like, we should work with nature instead of against it. So there's all kinds of microbes in dirt, like more than you can imagine. So just doing better soil management with the microbes and the plants and trees can bring way more carbon down than any of these other things for a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And that's with whales, I had never heard the environmental impact. That's really cool.
Yeah, they are. They're spectacular resources that should be treasured, and Norway even knows this. And Norway is supposed to be one of the most forward-thinking countries in terms of caring about the environment, and they see themselves as leaders of this. Why would they kill 1,500 whales a year? That makes no sense.
It's for the Sami.
It's really, they don't even make
natives.
that claim. They don't make that claim. They're actually
Really?
spending millions of dollars to promote eating more whales. It's not good. It's bad, actually. And it's really comes down to fish stock. There's just a few dudes managing the fish stock, and they want to make sure that the fishing industry is a very powerful industry in Norway. And they want to make sure the fishermen feel happy. I'm kind of boiling it down in a really boiled down way. But anytime I try to get answers like, why would they continue killing whales that nobody wants to eat and throwing them in the garbage? This is the only answer.
Is this your next? This is your next documentary.
Oh yeah. I mean, somebody needs to make it. I'm exhausted with
let me think of who might be the right person to make this. We need somebody who is a filmmaker and who knows Norway well and is passionate about the thing. Yeah.
Can I just have a little segment in the next Seaspiracy? I appreciate that, and it's very possible. But what I'd like to do, this is actually my thinking. I really believe that like education at its lowest level is the better answer, because obviously Norway has thumbed its nose at the entire globe that banned whaling many years ago, decades ago. So what, you're not going to listen to little old me, an American filmmaker, you do what I say. No, they have to figure it out on their own, you know.
Yeah, but film is how you impact people. It's how people what was the Supersize It or whatever about the fast food industry, or documentaries bring Seaspiracy. You're talking about that. They bring issues to public light a lot more. I
started eating fish after that film. I was already a pescatarian for a long time, and after I saw that, I was like, oh my God, no, I have to stop.
The fishing industry. So I mean, certain countries especially are so bad. I like to think in America we have reasonably regulated and fishing industry, but that's really serious, the damage that's happening. I know Mexico is notorious about just casting nets and scooping everything out of the ocean, and China has a horrendous record there. So
Yeah, it's, I don't think even the most responsible countries can stop what's happening. It's happening. It's just happening at an alarming rate.
yeah, we need to figure out, and I think that's through film. So when I left NASA, I'm like, what am I going to do in life? And I thought the way to impact people and change hearts and minds is through TV and film. I mean, that's what people like to watch,
Yeah.
YouTube clips or actual documentaries on Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
That's how you reach people.
Well,
Or-
I have to be honest with you. What started out as just a telling of Valdimir's story has turned into what you are hoping, which will hopefully make a lot of impact. Because I can't not. I mean, this is the experience that I'm having.
Yeah.
I'm having all of getting this incredible education and having this metamorphosis as a human, all because of him. And I think that if I can show what I've learned and grown as a human in my movie to everyone else, I don't know that it will change hearts and minds, and maybe not change hearts and minds in Norway, but I think it's a start. And then the other thing that if we can do one big step, and that is to create a whale reserve, because what I've learned is there's a lot of whales in captivity. The captivity industry is dying. People don't want to watch that anymore. They see it as horrible.
in the US, and
yes,
in Europe,
not in China, but yes, Canada
or Russia. I tell you what, circuses in Russia when I was training there were like, ugh, cringeworthy the way they treat their animals. So yeah,
That's sad. I know we forget that there's a huge planet that isn't even coming close to anything.
right.
It's like,
And these animals are smart, right? Marine mammals or dolphins and whales are
I definitely think it's
pretty
an
intelligent.
intelligent level an intelligence level that's on par with humans. I really don't see a distinction that now that I've gotten to know the whale. I don't. And it's just something we don't understand.
Are they smarter than dogs, do you think?
Absolutely. He can
Wow.
navigate the entire, whales can navigate the ocean without
Right.
a GPS. My dog can't go.
They can navigate the house.
Right. Absolutely. I see a lot of similar, I have a dog, and I see some similar cheeky behavior about wanting to, when they want to play, they want to play. When they want, they have the moods and everything, but I'm kind of starting to see a common thread in all animals. So I'm like, oh, that's actually just like me. It's not just like my dog. It's like me. It's like the dog.
Right.
It's a horse. It's like a
Right.
cow. So actually all of this has made me falling in love with this one whale has made me think differently about all animals. I don't even want to see one animal in a zoo.
Right.
I don't want, it's kind of maybe how the filmmaker who made My Octopus Teacher had those revelations about, and showed us the revelations about an octopus, that they have all these deeper emotions or behaviors and intelligence levels. So I feel like this is, to relate it back to space, this is a frontier that we really don't understand. And that's the intelligence of animals.
Yeah. Well, that is so cool. That's a great mission. So do you have any projects like on tap for next films or anything like that? Or you're focused on one whale?
So the film that I'm making, I can't let that be too far down the priority line, but we've been actively filming now for 3 years. And it's just been an absolute joy and adventure. I've gotten to see places in Norway that most Norwegians haven't seen, thanks to the whale. It's spectacular. The country is spectacular. I've gone on insane adventures. I've been in treacherous situations. I've had moments of peace and beauty, and moments with Hvaldimir that I could never imagine connecting with a whale. I've never even thought that much about whales until now. So the movie is called Spy Whale. And what started out as a 1-week film project has now become a 3-year project. And it will
feature length doc?
Feature film. Yep. Yeah. And it will be, obviously giving everyone, let me just say this. I've seen a lot of whale documentaries that I can only watch once because they're so hard to watch.
Yeah.
And they're so they're heartbreaking. The
Mhm.
Cove, Blackfish, even Seaspiracy, all that, it's just really hard. So my mission now with this movie is to make a movie that's for families. It can deliver the message with this beautiful, intelligent, sweet, funny, hilarious, cheeky animal as its center star, if you will.
Right.
And if everyone else can fall in love with him the way I fell in love with him, I think it could be the change needed to end, as much captivity as we can. Maybe we can't do it in Russia, but still living
Or
and
China.
breathing right here in San Diego.
Right.
I mean, I can walk down and watch
Well,
tricks right down here. So
they stopped it. They stopped the killer whales.
they stopped breeding killer whales.
They're gonna keep the ones they have, and then when they die, they're not gonna have any more. Yeah. Do they still have the show? I thought they stopped the show.
No, they have it. They do.
Oh, wow. I thought they stopped it.
Captivity industry is, there's all kinds of aquariums all around the US full of beluga whales. It's pretty bad. And then to be honest, it would be nice for this project to maybe reach some Norwegian, minds as well, to maybe we should think this. So if this one whale can get some of the captivity industry to change their business model, which I think it's time, easily done with the virtual realities and things that we have now. And then if it can potentially stop some of the slaughter of whales, it's an ambitious goal for a film, but I agree with you. Film is powerful.
So who whales then? Norway, Greenland, I guess Greenland through the Faroe Islands.
Faroe Islands, Norway, Japan, and Iceland has been one of the participants, but it's been, Iceland has chosen not to do it anymore.
Oh,
and
really?
Because people boycotted tourism to Iceland, and Iceland needs its tourism. That's my takeaway, is that's how that got accomplished.
How about Alaska? Do the natives in Alaska well?
There's an allotted number, I think, of killing that the natives can do. And it's done, I've spoken to some of the people up there, it's done terribly. Like they just shoot into the pods and hope to kill, they
Get
just
whatever they get. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them don't die. They just have these shot up through the whales.
Yeah.
I think that, I'd like to see that practice change. I get it that that's their culture and their history, but we have a lot of culture and history that
we have culture and history too, that stuff's done.
We had to quit. We had to quit having slaves. We had to quit doing things. You have to quit doing things. It's just kind of an evolution of humans and animals.
That's the beauty of humans. We can think and we can change, and that's the beauty of America. We can amend the Constitution and make changes.
Yeah, I would like that. But so I think that we'll probably continue to film. I'm really excited to say that I've actually been contacted by some countries where there are some beluga whales living in really bad conditions. And they asked about bringing their whales to Norway. So there's already—
How do you do that? You put them in a boat and transport them, or?
They go in airplanes. All these whales that, that are in SeaWorld or Georgia Aquarium, they came by airplane and got dropped off in boxes full of water and on a truck. And it's not a nice way to travel, and whales belong in the ocean, but we'd want that to be their last ride, because otherwise they just keep selling each other animals and shipping them all over the globe. So I'm hoping that this year we'll have a lot of progress with the Norwegian Whale Reserve, and the Commune of Hammerfest has really embraced the idea of creating the world's first whale reserve. And I think that by next year you could see animals coming out of tanks and being put into the sea in Norway. And that's, for me, it makes it all worthwhile. It gets me out of bed every day. And that's the goal. Hvaldimir is one thing, but now it's turned into a much bigger project, and hopefully one that makes impact outside of, one whale.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool though. Well, when can we see it?
I think that we're going to continue editing through the end of this year and probably put out a really beautiful teaser at the beginning of next year, 2023. So I'll send you the teaser, and I think it's hard to watch it without completely falling in love with a beluga whale. I mean,
Well, watching your short, that is a cool whale. You could tell he was just cool, and he liked interacting with people. It was really fun to see him.
yeah. Well, if you're ever in Norway, I would be happy to introduce you. He needs all the friends and advocates he can get.
I will take you up on that. Well, thanks for coming on, Regina. That's a super cool story. I'm looking forward to seeing the movie. What's the title again? The next
Spy whale.
Spy Whale. Yeah. There's no way he's not a spy. Maybe he has maybe he's still spying. Maybe that was their tactic, was to get him, now he can go to Oslo and all the Trondheim and all these other places.
Well, for anybody who's interested into a deep dive into the world of espionage, Russian underwater warfare, spying, I am taking that deep dive as well. So although I'm spending a lot of time advocating for him, advocating for whales and, those kind of things, I'm also, just like everyone else, want to know what the heck's going on. What was he doing? Why was he in those waters? What were they spying on? And mind you, I started all of this investigation prior to the conflict and the attack on Ukraine. And, it's very interesting, the change in now the conversations that I've had. A lot of people were like, Russia's no big deal. Why are you pursuing this? It's just, and now it's very different. Like, okay, let's all take this a little more seriously.
There's a lot of people that would be very interested in what you're learning, and that part of the world is contested now because of global warming. The Arctic is melted, and you can send ships over the North Pole in the summertime. And a lot of shipping companies have spent billions of dollars buying new types of ships because they know they can save weeks off of a trip, from Europe or the East Coast of America to China, hauling all the stuff that we buy from China and Asia. And so militarily, Russia's very interested, America's very interested, and I'm sure there's all kinds of interesting things. If you make that movie, once you get this one edited, make that movie, that would be very interesting to watch.
I actually have to roll it into, it's all about one whale, spy whale. He's a spy whale. And so it will be in this movie. You'll get all the juicy stuff that we've uncovered. It's remarkable. So awesome. I'm not trying to tantalize you, but
no, I want to see
I want you to know that that's what's propelling the film is, that his backstory is that he was a trained Russian spy,
military.
It wasn't it wasn't just that he was kind of like, oh, haha, it's kind of a novelty program. It's actually a very serious program. The work he's doing is really relevant to our security as a country, and as it's actually all of NATO. It's really relevant, and he was they're really skilled assets. So it's a little scary sometimes to think about what some of the agendas are coming from that, and now that we've seen it play out, it's
ask Ukrainians if it's scary. Yeah,
it is true.
Yeah, and there's a I'll just insert this. It's not good to be dependent on Russian gas, and from our point of view, it's not good to be dependent on China for our energy, which is what's happening. The way we're doing, a lot of our newer energy sources come from China. So you really need to take those things into account when you're making decisions.
Yeah,
but the cool. Yeah,
it is relevant. It really is relevant. Just the conversations that I've had with the people who are in intelligence that are experts have said these are little warning flares, these kind of things. Even the whale being spying in NATO waters, these are warning flares about things that might be great big plots. And these aren't conspiracy theories, but long-term plots from not just Russia, but also China. I've actually had to learn about China. I'm getting this weird education that I never thought I'd have, but that there are some really scary things that it's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about without sounding like an alarmist.
Right, I know. And I don't like, so I had a chance to help make the IMAX film A Beautiful Planet when I was in space. And it was definitely an environmental message, but it's awesome. It's just about how cool space travel is, but also looking back, you could see China. It's just this big yellow brown smog from all the pollution that they have there. This is another segue. It's interesting how Hollywood, it's not even kid gloves, they just completely bow to China. Like, we couldn't say that, look at all the pollution in China. You couldn't say that out loud. I just saw the Minions movie has a separate ending for the Chinese release. I don't know if you knew this. So Hollywood makes these movies, but a lot of them are specifically tailored for the Chinese market. And in the movie, apparently, like, the bad guys get off free, but in the Chinese movie, they had to have the bad guys get punished because it's very moral. And it was, anyway, the Chinese Communist Party is driving our entertainment.
Do you think it's because they own a lot of things here in the US and have bought some big entities?
The economic interest, I think it's because they have a lot of movie theaters and a lot of eyeballs and a lot of box office. So the big studios in Hollywood don't want to do anything to offend China. In fact, they actually send their scripts and let the Chinese censors tell them what's acceptable and what's not. It's insane. It's completely insane. They just made an alternate ending for the Minions movie. I mean, can you imagine that? Just to pass the Chinese censors. You can Google it. It's in the Hollywood Reporter or whatever.
I'm wondering if I'm going to have, I mean, people have asked me, they're like, are you really going to add this Russian element to the film? Are you really going to add this and that? Aren't you afraid? And the truth is, I just want to tell the facts and what's really out there. So yeah. I'll be watching for these kind of things.
Well, they named him Hvaldimir. Isn't that like they were kind of laughing. It's so sort of a Russian name.
Yeah, the word Val, Hval, is the Norwegian word for whale.
Okay.
Hvaldimir, it was kind of
it's like Vladimir.
Yes.
Right. It's a play on words.
But the Norwegians all are very much opposed to and shocked actually about what Vladimir Putin has done, and don't want any association. And actually, there was a whole article done right when the war broke out about should the whale's name be changed or whatever. We call him Valdi. That's our guy. So we call him basically Whaley. So yeah, it is a bummer that it's got Putin's name blended in there. But you know what? The Ukrainian guy is also Vladimir. So
Volodymyr, it's the Ukrainian term for Vladimir.
Yeah.
Vladyets or Vladyet is the word to lead, and mir is the world. So Vladimir literally means leader of the world.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue interviewing you. All right. Yeah.
So that's what it's a very, and Putin's father's name was Vladimir Putin also. And so he's Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. And so Russians, if you just call him Vladimirovich or Vladimir Vladimirovich, they know who you're talking about. You don't need to use the word Putin if you're talking about Russian. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I hope that our Hvaldimir leads the world as a whale in a way. I mean, it's it's a big ask for one little whale. Right now, it's just a job keeping him alive, and that's really hard.
You should rename him Hvaldimir, Hvalod, because that's Zelensky's first name, and then say, hey, we renamed our whale after you, and I bet you that you could get a little bit of press that way.
Change the spelling. Yeah,
just change the spelling to the Ukrainian spelling. That would actually be really cool.
I think the world would support that definitely, because that's
you would get a little blurb on the evening news if you did that.
Okay, good to know. I'm gonna the people who named him, which nobody has the right to name him, right? It's
right.
I mean, we're just naming whatever we want. I mean, we all have the right to name him. It's a better way to put it. But he doesn't care about his name, so I'll ask the Norwegians if they'd like to change the spelling that they gave him. I think it's
his name is
yeah. It's like.
Do you have the whale sounds in the movie? That's amazing. Yeah. They talk to each other.
Yeah, in fact,
it's incredible.
They do say their own name. They introduce themselves.
Really? So they each have their own little
Yeah, They do.
That is so cool.
And the beautiful thing about belugas, which I think it makes me like them even more, is that they are really social. They're one of the
Mhm.
most social animals, and they are very playful and they want to get to know people. So
Mhm.
whereas orcas kind of stay in a really tight-knit family that's
Mhm.
very, closed for
Right.
business.
Tribal. Yeah.
Yeah, the belugas are like, they're kind of like having raves and getting to know each other, and they're swinging around,
So
and they
belugas are like Spanish or Italians, and
one
orcas are like Norwegians.
and they learn each other's songs. So if they run into each other, they'll be like, hey, here's a song we've been singing, and the other belugas will
That's
like,
so cool.
let's learn it. And then they're like, we'll teach you a song, and then they'll make a song together and go like, let's all create a song. And these are different populations, so they're really special. I think it's interesting.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Is that in the movie?
we are
Will it
gonna
be?
this movie's becoming and I'm not even joking, we're going to definitely have a series follow-up, because what all of the things that we've been jamming into this 1 hour podcast, as you can see,
Yeah.
fit into a whole movie. So I'd like to
Right.
create very much like the Biggest Little Farm. They had a
Mhm.
beautiful feature film, and now they've got a series which continues their journey. And I think we'll probably do the same with this, so that we can have multiple
Well,
episodes on.
yeah. Netflix has 2-part or 4-part thing. I'm watching. They have a thing about the movies we love. It's all about like all the 80s movies. I watched Dirty Dancing and Home Alone, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
the story of how those movies got
Yeah,
made.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
super. It's
I did
amazing.
watch that. I watched
Yeah.
the one on Jurassic Park, actually. Yeah.
I haven't got. There are 4-episode seasons, and so you could have a couple episodes about.
Yeah,
There's lots of stuff you could do there. So
absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And in fact, I've written a children's book um,
okay.
that's essentially follows a script. I think that there's a really young audience that can embrace this story. Like I said, it's not a gory story.
Right.
So I do think there's a lot of platforms that Hvaldimir can send out, Valdi can
Valdi.
send out the message. Bring a lot of these messages, not the political ones to children, obviously, but
Yeah.
the environmental ones. So
Yeah, of course. And also just to learn how smart whales are and those things about how they have their own names. Who names a whale? Do the parents name it?
oh, I love that question. Now I need to know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a great question.
How do they get it? Yeah. That's a cool question.
My mind is blown right now.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense that the mom or dad would name the baby, maybe, right? And
I
teach
don't
them the name.
that's how we do it.
That is how we do it. And
Yeah.
I mean, Terry, I'm not joking. I mean, I look forward to you meeting Hvaldimir. You're going to be like,
Yeah.
okay, he's exactly like me. We're the same. It's just it doesn't take long to figure it out.
I scream like a little girl when I get in cold water, though. That's the big difference.
You'll watch from you'll watch from the dock.
Yeah. But I won't throw him food.
No, no, he would love he loves people. He really
Okay.
is very it's a good thing and a bad thing, but it's our portal into their world, and
Right.
I'm grateful for it. And hopefully we're learning.
I love
Maybe
it.
the passage, maybe it's the passage to better understanding. Maybe it's through animals, whales. I don't know.
Well, I can't wait to see your film, and thanks for coming on again. It'll be called Spy Whale for those following it. And if you want to see what Regina Crosby has done, she has onewhale.org.
Yep.
And there's a cool documentary about Hvaldimir. It's HVAL, Hvaldimir, MIR. And it's awesome. So thanks for coming on, Regina.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you, Terry.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.